Chodesh Tov, Chodesh Tov. We'll start. It's a little bit loud, but we'll try to scream a little bit. So it says, Al Shlosha Dvarim Ha'olam Omed. There's three things that the world stands on, three things that the world exists on. Torah, Avodah, V'Geminut Chasidim. Not only does the three things that the world stands on, but in order for the world to continue surviving, in order for the world to have the zchut to continue surviving, it needs these three things constantly. It says that Torah study and tefillah, even though they're very different, they both really work together. It says that Torah is godly, it's divine, it's something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when He created the world, was the blueprint of the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when He created the Torah. And our job is to be able to learn the Torah and to connect the Torah and to bring the Torah, which is from Shemayim, down into this world, and to be able to live by the Torah. He says in order for a person to do that, he needs to be constantly learning and toiling in Torah in order to bring that Torah, that Kiddushan into our human minds. To take something which is so infinite and so great and to try to understand it in our physical minds is something that requires us to actually sit and to toil. But it's not only the learning of Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with Torah, that He just wanted to sit and learn. The purpose of the Torah is to take the Torah and to bring the Torah into the world, to teach the Torah into the world, to create a world of people serving Hashem, to create a world where people live by the Torah and live by the mitzvot. Rav Elazar said, the Torah is so great that if it wouldn't be for people learning Torah day and night, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would never even create the world. We need to say that there would be no purpose to the whole world and to all of creation if it wouldn't be for the Torah learning day and night. If it wouldn't be for people sitting and learning Torah, for people being constantly involved in learning Torah, there would be no purpose in the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Because the purpose that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world is to be good to us, to give us good, but it's to bring godliness into the world, to take the Torah and to bring Hashem into the world, to make it that the whole world sees Hashem in this world. And he says over here that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us this purpose in life, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us, that we should be the ones to bring the glory into the world. And he says that if it wouldn't be for the Jewish people constantly bringing the Torah into the world, the world would have no purpose to exist, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu would make the world cease to exist. He says over here something interesting. He says, in the Midrash it says, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that everything that He had made, Tov Me'od. He says if you take the word Me'od, it comes out the same letters as the Dam, to tell us that the whole purpose of creation was created for the person. And the person himself has an effect on the whole world. Meaning to say that people, not only in a physical sense, as human beings we have an effect to be able to create the world however we want, but also in a spiritual sense. For example, people create society. People create morals, people make ethics, people make the world, people make gas, electric, whatever else the world needs to be able to run, right? If how people are, that's how the world's going to be. If people are going to want to be immoral, the world's going to turn into an immoral place. If people are going to want to be moral, the world's going to be a moral place. If people are going to want to live by the truth, the world will be an honest place. If people are going to be liars, the world's going to eventually turn into a world of lies. People structure the world. In a physical sense, people structure the world. We build buildings, we build houses, we build cars, and we structure the world, but not only in a physical sense, the way we see it, that we structure the world, but also spiritually. Everything that we do creates spiritual energy that comes back down into the world. The Ramchal brings, and Derech Hashem, that when a person, the way a person is in this world, that's what a person brings down from Shemayim. When a person lives in this world, everything he does goes up, creates a spiritual action, and it comes down into this world as a reaction. And if it's something positive, it'll bring down something positive. And if it's something negative, it'll bring down something negative. The Ramchal says, based on how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, that based on how people live, that's how the world is going to react. That's how the world is going to be. We need to say that the Ramchal brings that if people take Hashem and they push Hashem out of the world by sinning and living against the Torah and doing avirot and not caring, like the Gemara says, "Ein poranud ba'al olam el bishvil ami aretz." All the tragedies in the world come because the people that don't care to sin. That's a clear Gemara, right? The people that don't care to sin, those are the people that the tragedies in the world come because of them. The Ramchal says when people sin, when people live in a way that's against the Torah, people live wicked, it pushes the Shekhinah, it pushes Hashem out of the world. And he says Hashem created such a system that when Hashem is pushed out of the world, automatically the Ramchal says a certain darkness comes into the world, sicknesses come into the world, poverty comes into the world, war comes into the world. The more Hashem is pushed back out of the world, the more darkness and the more negativity comes into the world. And the other way around, the Ramchal says, the more Torah there is in the world, the more mitzvot there is in the world, the more chesed there is in the world, the more midot, the more derech eretz there is in the world, right? The more we behave, like the Talmud Demorah says, the more we emulate, the more we are kind, we're compassionate, and we fulfill Torah and we fulfill mitzvot, the more we serve Hashem, the more we bring down that spirituality into the world, and the more Shekhinah we bring into the world, the more positivity, the more barakah, the more shalom, everything good comes into the world as the result of us fulfilling the Torah and the mitzvot. That the world in of itself all really depends on us. How we are, that's how the world is going to react. How we are, that's what the world is really reflecting. So when you're seeing in the world that things that are happening are negative and tragedies and sicknesses and so on and so forth, it's just resembling that Hashem is telling us what's really happening behind the scenes, that we need to do something, that we need to fix, that we need to change. It's not just happening. It's happening because we're making it happen. And he says that this is what it means, that the Torah is one of the pillars of the world. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is like our reflection. The way we are, that's where Hashem is going to be with us and in the whole world as a whole. He brings that in San Francisco there was a zoologist over there. And he saw that one of the bird species started to diminish. They didn't understand what was happening with this bird. How come it's not reproducing? And when they went to look into it, they saw that the birds, the boys and the girls are not mating. The boys are with the boys and the girls are with the girls. In San Francisco. Imagine. Birds. That you see from here that the surroundings, the people that live there, it changes already the air, the surroundings, the mentality, the reality around them changes even.
But that's why Hashem going to destroy the world. If God forbid that's what's going to be happening.
Unfortunately, it could go. The Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is patient. Slowly, he gives the kapara until it gets too much, and then it has to come down as a cleansing form. The Gemara says. This
happened recently, right now?
I'm not sure how many years ago it happened, but it happened, yeah. Right? But what? It's just to teach us that the world reacts. The whole world reacts based on how we are. Even by Noach, we find the same thing. It says that the people were so corrupt that even the animals are starting to become the same way, because the whole world just reacts on how we are. When we do something, we create a spiritual energy in the air that's felt and taints everybody else around us, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. Right? If people are Kiddushdik, if you're in an atmosphere that's Kiddushdik, that has Kiddush and Tahar, and people are doing the right thing, your mentality will change, your feelings will change, your emotions will change. But when a person is in an area where there's a lot of corrupt things happening, a person's mentality also changes in accordingly. It's naturally, it's in the environment, it's in the air, already to be able to change a person. I tell you, the Arizal, everything changes. The Arizal says that by Avram Avinu, it's brought down in Arizal, I should say, that Avram Avinu, when he was walking down to Mitzrayim, he looked at his wife and he said, "Wow, I just realized how beautiful you are." Right? That's what it says by Avram Avinu. So the question is, what? Until now, he never knew how beautiful his wife is?
In Egypt, he saw this.
Of course he knew, but when he lived with his wife, he looked at her spiritually. He saw her true beauty for who she was. Once he just started going down to Mitzrayim, the tomb of Mitzrayim already started to affect his perception. He started to realize that he's paying attention to his wife's beauty. He started to realize that he's going to somewhere very tamei. Just the presence of going towards that direction already affected his perspective. Just going in that direction.
But it's not only the Egyptian woman was much uglier than...
Whatever it might be, the point being is that you find that we create the actual effects in the whole entire world. And the Torah is one of the pillars of the world, that if it wouldn't have been for Torah, the Kodesh Baruch Hu would never create the world, it says. And he says the next thing that we have is chesed. He says, Olam chesed yibanen. Right? We need chesed also in order to constantly keep the world running. He says something very interesting over here. He says that when it comes to Noach, when he came out of the boat, when it came to Noach to come out of the teva, it says, Vayiskol Elokim et Noach. It said that Noach was in the boat. And then it says Hashem remembered Noach, that Noach has to come out of the boat. It says, what did he remember? That for 12 months, Noach was doing chesed and he was feeding the animals for 12 months. That was the zechut that Hashem remembered for Noach, that now he could come out of the boat. But he asks a question. He said he doesn't understand. The pasuk says, right? Noach, ish tzaddik tamim. Noach was a tzaddik. Right? He had Torah, he had masim tovim. He was telling the people that they were wicked for 120 years. Not only that, they told him, Noach, if you're going to go into the boat, we're going to kill you, your family, and the boat together if we see you going into this boat. They threatened him, but he went anyways. And he believed in Hashem. Right? And not only that, he says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was like the tzaddik of the generation. Ki otacha ra'iti tzaddik lefanai bador hazeh. He was the tzaddik. Why bedavka did he need this chut that Hashem said, oh, I saw that Noach was feeding the animals for 12 months in the teva, now he could come out of the teva. Why that chut? We know also that Noach was considered a tzaddik. Why? Because the Chidah writes that he was shomer his kiddushan. He was very careful with his kiddushan. He didn't look where he was not supposed to look, and he didn't go where he was not supposed to go, and he didn't do what he wasn't supposed to do. And not only that, he says, he asks even more. He says, why did Noach need zuchuyot to come out of the teva? It says that the whole purpose of the Mabul was to be able to kill out all the wicked people of the generation. So the purpose was already done. The wicked people are wiped out. Now Noach has to come out of the boat. The purpose is done. Why now does Noach need special zchut to come out of the boat? That's the question that he asks. But he says now we can understand why. He says why? He says because Noach had Torah. Noach had Masim Tovim. But the world needs three things to exist. The world now was destroyed. Now you need to recreate a new world. Noach could have had Tefillah, he could have had Torah, but you need Chesed. Without Chesed, the world doesn't have the zchut to exist. So therefore, Mela, Hashem saw he had Torah, Hashem saw mitzvot. But what made it that he had zchut to come out of the teva and rebuild the world is the Chesed that he did for 12 months. Because you needed that third amud. Because if you only have 2 or 3 or 1, it's not going to work. You need to have all 3. And therefore, Mela, the Midrash is coming to teach us. He's telling us that it's not enough. Ish tzaddik tamim. But you also need Chesed. And the truth is, what month it started and what month it's finished? I don't remember. I think Tishrei, Kislev, somewhere around there. But in the Gemara in Avodah Zarah also says that a person that sits and learns Torah and he doesn't do Chesed is considered he's Kilu Eli Elokai. This person lives like he has no God. Why? It's not enough just to learn. You have to do Chesed. You have to do everything. Yes.
Learning Torah and do Chesed. How do you combine this?
How do you combine it? In every way of life throughout your day, you can combine it.
Few examples. Few.
How do? You sit and you learn. You go help your wife. You help your parents. You help your friends.
So this is my simple.
You donate money to wherever you need to donate. Of course, that's chesed, okay. Right? You be nice to people. You make people feel good. You compliment people is also a chesed. You say nice things to people is also a chesed. That's also chesed. To make people feel good is also a very big chesed. You see somebody, you smile at them, you change their day, it's also a chesed. Olam chesed yibanei, Gemirut chasedim, right? You go visit people that's sick, they're also a chesed.
What's the opposite now? When you learn Torah and opposite of chesed. When you don't do chesed.
The opposite of everything I just said. You don't care about anybody else except yourself. Right? And he says over here also very interestingly, he says that after the Jewish people, they went through the Holocaust. After they came out of the Holocaust, they came out of a very strong darkness and they wanted to rebuild. They wanted to rebuild Klal Yisrael. You realize that after the Holocaust, when the Jewish people, they came to America, to Canada, to Israel, they started from scratch. They started from scratch. They started the little city in Lakewood, with the yeshiva. They started a little yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael called Panovich. Slowly, they started with small things, but now it's massive. But they realized that what? Without Torah, you have no future. Without Chesed, you have no future. If everybody just lives, imagine no Torah, no Chesed, no Tefillah, no nothing. Everybody would be wherever they want. With a few generations, everybody would fall apart. become like goyim, you could forget about everything. No Torah, no mitzvot, no klal Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is the world that I don't need, and with time, everything will just destroy itself. So you see, Torah, Avodah, and Chesed is the three pillars of the world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs, that the world needs in order to be able to exist. That even Noah, he had Torah, he had mitzvot, he was tzaddik, but without Chesed, he didn't have the zchut to come out of the teva. Because the world needs all those three zuchiyot in order to be able to live. That's what Pirkei Avot is teaching us over here. The Pirkei Avot also says in the Mishnah before, it says that a person needs to make sayagim na Torah. A person needs to make walls, a wall, in order for him not to come to do avirot d'oraita. We find in the Torah something very interesting. The Torah says by the Nazir, I want to discuss today what the difference between kosher wine is and non-kosher wine is. Right? Some people ask me, they say, what's the difference? Right? What's the difference if Tony squeezes the grapes? What's the difference if Yankel squeezes the grapes? I put grapes in front of you, he steps on it, he steps on it. This is asur, this is mutar. Nothing happened. There's no pork in there. There's nothing in there. They both have clean feet. He both did netila on their feet. Everything is okay. There's nothing there. Why is this asur and why is this mutar? Why is non-kosher wine not allowed? Why is it that if you have your cleaning lady, she took your open bottle of wine and she shaked it a little bit, or she poured it for you, everything becomes asur? What did she do? Poor lady, she didn't do anything. When she poured you wine, what did she do anything? Goyim. Of course it's talking about goyim.
Not allowed?
Not allowed.
Why?
Oh, we have to see why. That's what we're gonna talk about now. That's what we're talk about now, right? We find something very interesting. Before I speak about Stami and Am, we find in the Torah somebody called a Nazir. A Nazir is somebody that he disconnected himself from drinking wine. Why? Because he saw that alcohol brings to a lot of problems. Wine was a very common drink, so he said, you know what, no more wine for me, Nazir. After that, the Torah says, not only is he not allowed to drink wine, he's not allowed to drink grape juice. He's not allowed to have oil made from grapes. He's not allowed to have seeds from grapes. He's not allowed to even take the skin from the grape and eat it. He can't go next to grapes. The question is why? He only asked himself to drink wine. Why is the Torah telling you that he shouldn't even go through a vineyard?
Who was that?
Nazir. Anybody that wants to become a Nazir. He says he wants to be a Nazir and he's not allowed to drink wine.
What's a Nazir?
A Nazir is somebody that disconnects from wine. He's not allowed to drink wine, he's not allowed to become tamei to dead bodies, he has to grow his hair, he can't get a haircut. Right? But the purpose of it is to disconnect from drinking wine. And it says that such a person not only is not allowed to drink wine, he's not even allowed to walk through a vineyard, the Torah says. The question is, why not? You see that the Torah itself is teaching us that when a person is supposed to stay away from something, you're supposed to make fences around it, you're supposed to stay away from it completely. Completely. Чуть-чуть.
Ну, наверное, он это подошел к этому, потому что он пил вино до того, что он уже полностью с ума сошел.
Не, он даже не пил. Он
не пьет, и он на него действует.
Он видит, что другие пьют, он говорит, я это не буду делать.
Ну, это немножко не сходится.
Почему нет?
Бог создал...
Человек пьяница.
Окей.
Говорит, дурак, как это началось.
Окей.
И он говорит, на все виновата, последняя капля виски.
Правильно.
И он говорит, маленькую рулетку нам.
Окей.
И принимает для себя обед.
Правильно.
И говорит, я пить не буду.
Правильно.
И он ровно месяц не имеет права пить вино. Отрастает волос, борода.
А после месяца?
Он потом должен будет приносить приношение в Бет-Микдаш, стригается там, и потом вот это все освещает его тело, понимаете, он все святым очень.
Этот человек берет на себя какие-то обязанности.
Да.
Именно то, что касается алкоголя. Вино.
Вино, не прикасаться к мертвым телам,
Но это он.
не трогать
Это
бороду,
он.
не трогать волосы.
Но это не значит, что Бог перестал...
Let's get back on topic. Let's back on topic, right?
Бог создал вино для правильных вещей.
The Gemara says that
Ауди,
Злоупотребляет.
чересчур много пьет.
the Gemara says
Я
that
не хочу делать то, что он сделал.
Правильно.
Поэтому он для себя делает от этого до конца. Смотрите, Рамбам пишет, когда человек хочет отойти от плохого, он должен отойти 100% отойти, а потом 50% подойти. Имейте в виду, человек хочет исправить себя. Если он будет делать плохие вещи, это 100% зло, нехорошо, чтобы отвыкнуть от плохого, он отходит на 100%, а потом тихо-тихо возвращается
на 50%.
На 50%. Чтобы было
Баланс.
Вот так, правильно. Вот это одно и то же почти.
Но видите, по-русски правильно понял.
Он тоже вам объяснял на русском.
Нет, по-русски вы объяснили.
Ага, нахера извиняюсь.
Мы же ученики, мы же
So like this.
должны понимать.
So like this.
Поэтому стараюсь только пить по субботам только пить. Но не в течение недели.
So like this. So let's get back on the topic. The nozzle is just an example that you can see that the Torah creates barriers for people to stay away. Now Chachamim came along and they answered wine. Why did the Chachamim come along and they answered wine from Goyim? Why did they ask the wine from Goyim? He says over here that you know where it all started? It all started
Yeshka.
with the Jews in Midian, with the Jews when they were passing through and they went to the war with Midian. Balak and Bilam, they didn't know how to wipe out the Jewish people. So what did they do? Bilam said, you know, the God of the Jewish people, he doesn't like when people are immoral. He doesn't like when men and women fool around in a way that they're not allowed. This is the one thing Hashem hates, people that are immoral. So he says, you know what we're going to do? The Jewish people need a lot of linen. We're going to fool them. We're going to create a little Las Vegas for them. Let's put it that way. Right? We're going to fool them. So what did he do? They came, they took an old lady. She made like a store that she was selling linen, different materials. And then behind the curtains, they had a naked woman over there. They had naked woman over there, right in the back. And in the front, they had an old lady with a young girl, like innocent people, like they're selling material. And the Jewish people need linen. They would come out and say, you need linen, come. We have linen for you. And the Jewish people would go inside to get the linen. And the old lady would say, $200. And the young girl would say, no, $150. Come over here, come closer. And she would go inside. And then they'd say, maybe you want to drink something while you're here? And they would give them nice wine to drink, and they would drink. And alcohol would stir them up a little bit. And then they would go and say, come look. And they would see the naked girl. And they would say, you want to be with her? And you would already be drunk. I say, well, first you have to do Avodah Zarah. So what Avodah Zarah? I can't do Avodah Zarah. Because if you want to be with her, you have to do this Avodah Zarah. And they're already all fired up from the wine. The alcohol got to them. So what did they do? So unfortunately there's a machloket in the Gemara exactly what they did, but l'ma'aseh, they sinned. Pinchas saw this, and he saw that what? It was the alcohol that got to them. If they wouldn't drink, they would stay away from it. But Pinchas realized that what? That wine, stay away. Can't drink wine with goyim. What did Pinchas do? He got up and he put in chedim, the shem meforash, anybody that drinks wine from a goy. But Pinchas only astered it, wine of a goy, in the place of a goy or with goyim. But if you bring it home, he didn't aster it. But many people didn't listen. A lot of people did not listen. They said, whatever, forget about it. They didn't listen to Pinchas. They couldn't care less of what he said. And they drank anyways. And they started to marry goyim, and started to marry goyot, and they started to go on and drinking and so on and so forth. Until Daniel came along. Daniel the Nevi later on. He astered wine, not only in by the goyim, but even non-kosher wine, not even though a Jew, non-Jew made wine, also he asked it to drink. Even in your own facility, he's not allowed to drink. And he also said it's asur to get bread and oil from goyim as well. Why did he do that? Because he saw that the Jewish people were very connecting too much with the goyim. So he wanted to disconnect the Jewish people from the goyim. So things which were very basis, very, bread you need all the time, wine people drank all the time, oil is something that you need all the time. So he realized that these things, when the Jews go and they want to buy it, they go to the goyim all the time. It creates a connection between them. They sit together, they eat together, they drink together, and this is how it all starts.
We learned this from Kosher, to eat raw, and we eat bread with them, and we get married as a daughter.
Right, so this is how it all starts. So what did Pinchas do? He went and he wanted to what did Daniel do? He wanted to disconnect him. And this is one of the reasons also why you're not allowed to eat food for a goy cooked, you're not allowed to eat bread if a goy baked, and so on and so forth, or if a goy touches your wine. Why did the Chachamim ask all of this?
You go to a restaurant, to blood kosher restaurant.
Yeah.
You think the chef is Jewish over there in the back?
So we'll get into the details of that later. Right? So what happens is like this. So the Chachamim, they asked us to be able to stay away from them. They asked many things for us to stay away from them. Now, wine was one of the main things that Daniel wanted the Jewish people to stay away from when it comes to goyim, but again, they did not listen. It was all mishum benoteim. They wanted to distance us from non-Jewish woman and drinking. And then afterwards what happened? They came along and they answered wine, b'hana'an. They said not only you're not allowed to drink not kosher wine, you're not allowed to even benefit from not kosher wine. Why? What does benefiting have to do with anything? Because the Chachamim saw that the Goyim are starting to use wine for Avodah Zarah. They're starting to use wine in their temples and whatever else that they do in order to be able to use it as a form of Avodah Zarah, to serve the Avodah Zarah. So Chachamim said, since they use it for Avodah Zarah, there's also concern that when you're getting wine from a Goy, besides the fact that it might bring to closeness and drinking with them and coming to them, but also it could be that they use this wine for Avodah Zarah and you're not allowed to even have hana'ah from it, because anything that was used for Avodah Zarah, you're not allowed to have hana'ah from. Therefore they asked wine even b'hana'ah. Benefit from it. Meaning to say that if
don't enjoy from it.
Yes, if somebody gave you a non-kosher bottle of wine, you're not allowed to even benefit from it. You're not allowed to give it anyway. You spill it in the garbage. You can't even give it as a gift. It depends if it's cooked or not. It depends if it's cooked or not.
The wine is cooked.
Then it's okay.
What about if somebody give me let's say, expensive cognac, let's say, non-kosher?
Yeah.
Can I go to the store and exchange with him?
Yes.
It's a good question. Why yes?
Why not? You're changing.
So, you're benefiting.
Hold on. You're benefiting from minus to plus. You're not drinking that. You're going to change to have
I
a
have a
better
friend,
kosher.
you know, this is some cognac, I don't know, I heard the Louis XIV costs 1,300. Boy come to me, he doesn't know that I don't have to drink. Bring me this bottle, $1,300 cognac. Please, Israel, this for your present. I cannot go to the store and exchange with him? Or should I put it in the garbage?
So I'll tell you like this. The halacha is that by cognac, I want to say a different svara. I one time told this to Rabbi Muretov. We seem to agree. I want to tell you a different svara by cognac. Cognac is the same thing like wine, right? Shulchan Aruch says asur to have hana'an. Right? You're not allowed to sell it. You can't have benefit from it. You can't even plant it. You can't even pour it on your plants. You got to pour it down the toilet and throw the bottle in the garbage. It doesn't make a difference if it's $1,000. Doesn't make a difference if it's $1 million. Avera you don't do, even if you lose money. Correct? Right? Avera you don't do, even if you lose money. Right? The halakha says if they tell you to do avera or give all your money, you give all your money. It's clear Shulchan Aruch. You have to lose all your money not to do avera. Now, the Ramah says nowadays the Christians, they're not real over the Avodah Zarah. They don't really do Avodah Zarah. They don't even know what they're doing. They're just doing what they taught, whatever they're habitual, whatever they're doing. Now, the Ramah says, therefore, if it's in a case where you have a big financial loss, you could rely on the fact that the Christians are not real over the Avodah Zarah, and b'diavad you could have hana'an. Hana'an means you're allowed to benefit from it. Drinking, everybody says asur. Shulchan Aruch says it's asur even to have hana'an. But the Ramah and the Levushi Sarat over there also bring that b'diavad, if you want to rely on it, you could rely on it in order not to be able to have a financial loss. You're allowed to go to the store and you're allowed to exchange it. You're allowed to, if somebody gave it to you, you're allowed to sell it. If somebody owes you money and he pays you with it, you're allowed to do it. But all this is b'diavad, in the after effect, right? But right now, if a person right now has a good deal, somebody comes and tells you, I have this $1,300 bottle of cognac, I give it to you for $300. You could buy it right now for $300. Go switch it in a store for $1,000 worth of scotch. Lechatchili, you're not allowed to do it.
Okay, that's
everybody will tell you. Why? Yes. What's the question? That's it? Right. Baruch Hashem. It depends what kind of restaurants. Depends what kind of. Huh? Good ones.
That's a good one.
No, the question is asked if somebody goy cooks there, goy. So you want to understand the concept how
So you tell you when you go to a place, a lot of places you go to, you tell the mashgiach, make the food shomer Shabbat. The mashgiach knows, he goes to cook the food for you. I went out not too long ago. I told the mashgiach to come. He happens to be a Bukharian guy. It was funny when I saw him. I told him, please make my food for me. He went to the kitchen and cooked my food for me. Now, I'm not saying you always have to do that. If you could do that, you could do that. B'diavad, by cooking, there's a lot of sfeikot you can rely on. If it's owned by a Jew, if a Jew turns on the fire, it's a whole topic in of itself. That's not my topic today. I don't want to get into it, but the point being is wine. Wine is the topic. If you have, let's do one or two more questions. Really wanted to get into a little more. Let's do one or two more questions, and then next week we'll discuss sherry casks. What's the whole case with sherry casks? Everybody wants to know. And sherry casks mutar, and sherry casks asur. Somebody asked me yesterday. He tells me I was at Shabbat. So Thursday I have on Shabbat, and somebody brings me a bottle of scotch. Before they take the scotch and they store it in cognac casks. The scotch is mixed with non-kosher cognac. Are you allowed to drink it or not? Can you drink non-kosher cognac?
Я коньяк вообще не пью.
I'm asking, can you drink? No, it's just like wine.
До шампинь.
So are you allowed to drink it if it's mixed with the cognac or not? That was the question. There it's a little bit worse than wine. We'll get into that next week. But let's just discuss two common questions now. If you have non-cooked wine in your house, regular wine, not mevushal.
Hold on, in the bottle when you buy kosher wine, kosher la Pesach, la 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 la.
Yeah.
Is that cooked, not cooked?
Sometimes, yeah.
So the cooked one you can, not cooked you cannot.
No, you could get both of them. You could buy whatever you want. The question is, if the bottle that's not cooked is open, and
Closed bottle.
it's okay, it's good. You could buy whatever you want if it's
Magazine,
closed. You could
blood
buy whatever
kosher.
you want.
The question. Now, if this says Michalal Shabbat, he's not Michalal Shabbat Mefarasi, he's just Michalal Shabbat.
Mutar.
He's allowed to touch it, move it.
Yes, mutar.
Вино, вот продается.
Mutar, yeah. If he's not mefarhesia, the dark tshuva or the pit tshuva bring that if it's a chalel Shabbat mefarhesia, it's asur to drink, and if you drink it, you need to tshuva.
Которые приходишь в ресторан, гой не может открыть тебе его.
Ты должен сам его открыть.
Да, сам должен открыть.
Ну вот ты к маме идешь, берешь бутылку.
Да, я сам открываю. Но там он только продает, там разрешает тебе только мивуша.
All kosher restaurants only allow cooked wine. They don't allow not cooked wine.
Somebody
Somebody asked me on Yom Tov. I had two questions on Yom Tov, two interesting questions on Yom Tov, and we'll finish off with this. One question on Yom Tov was as follows. One question is as follows. Are you allowed to give somebody that's mechalel Shabbat befarhesia? Somebody doesn't keep Shabbat at all. Nothing. Publicly disgraces Shabbat, mamash legamre. Right? Drives on a car in front of the rabbi, doesn't care about anything. Right? Say you have somebody like this.
No.
If he touches my wine, I'm allowed to drink it.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? Now, he's in my house. Not mevushal.
לא משנה.
Not mevushal. Not allowed. Right? If he's in my house now and I have not mevushal wine, can I give it to him to drink?
You can give it to drink, but that's it.
But once he touches it, it becomes asur, and as he's drinking it, I'm giving him something asur. Is it allowed or not?
It's mutar for this status.
No, you can't even be sitting on a table with the
So Lama said,
Rabbi, I have an answer.
so what?
Если он к вам домой зашел,
Он хороший человек.
он уже должен оттуда кошерным выйти.
That's also true.
Вот так вы должны смотреть.
Right? It's also true. So,
Там вино уже решите. Как если он такой Раша, извините, не Раша, ну вот такой, не шумер шаббат, сигарой ходит, машину на Мерседесе едет перед рабами. Если он к вам домой зайдет на шаббат, он оттуда должен выйти уже
кошерный.
серьезно.
Zat Hashem.
Это ваша миссия, а там уже как вино.
It was in my house, in somebody else's house. So this person asked me, is he allowed to give him not mevushal wine or not? I told him yes. The Chachamim, when they answered it, they didn't answer it to give it to him in of itself. It's also in itself is mutar to be able to give it to him. However, right? What about if you have? We'll do one more question. If you have a non-Jewish cleaning lady in your house, and you have an open bottle of wine, you didn't realize. She picked up the bottle of wine that was open, and she just moved it to another location. Is it asur or no?
Asur.
No, it's not asur.
Is she
If the bottle of
in the
wine-
work or she lives in the house?
Open or closed?
It's open. If the only thing that she did is pick it up and move it, it's okay. The problem is when they shake it, or when they pour it, or when they touch it. But if you just pick it up to transport it to a different location without any one of those movements, it's mutar. It doesn't become a
You
sword.
didn't see the movement. How would you know? How about if you didn't see it?
You could assume that if you're home. If you're home or you're coming in and out, and you know that she's a cleaning lady, and all she does is just pick things up from one place into the other place, you don't have to be
I
concerned.
heard if somebody in the
If you left the house and she knows you're working from 9 to 5 and she's cleaning your house and you have open bottles of wine, Lefi halakha, it's very hard to say it's mutar to drink it even afterwards. What?
Whatever, but if the lady lives in the house,
It's a big problem.
what's the problem?
When you have a non-Jewish lady living in your house, you have to know a lot of halachot. Otherwise,
Nanny.
you have to know a lot of halachot. Otherwise, you can make your whole house treif and you won't even know. Why? You're not home all day. From 9 to 6, everybody's not home.
Do you know if I'm home or not?
I'm saying, if somebody's not home all day, right? And he has a nanny in his house, and she knows not home all day. You know what she's doing in your house all day?
Иногда еврейская няня больше сделает, чем гоющая няня.
Could be. That's true.
Вот да. Надо на все положительно смотреть.
No.
И правильно смотреть.
When you have a non-Jewish lady in your house, you got to be very careful.